Hello, Miners fans. Welcome back to Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark in Kenai, Alaska. A place that, while beautiful to look at, hasn't exactly been beautiful to the Mat-Su Miners or to the fans that have gotten to watch this team so far. They have been 0-2 so far during this road trip and looking to get off the schneid here today.
Yeah, Mat-Su struggled a little bit with Peninsula so far last night. A tough loss, 4-3 here at Coral Seymour Memorial, but Mat-Su looking to get back on the rise today with a win here on the road.
Charlie Fellows, Dylan Simmons, as always, bringing you the action today. And while yesterday's game wasn't nearly as backbreaking or controversial as game one of the road trip, it still deserves some mention, so here's some highlights. Hello, Miners fans, and welcome inside Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark once again for the second of 5 straight games between the Mat-Su Miners and the Peninsula Oilers. Charlie Fellows, Dylan Simmons, as always, the voices of the Mat-Su Miners, ready to bring you this action. But I think no matter how exciting this game gets, chances are, Dylan, it won't even come close to the sheer madness that took place on this field last night.
Here on the defensive side.
0-2. Weak grounder to short. Fielded and bobbled by the shortstop, Dawson, and everybody is going to be safe. They tried to score 2 runs. Not sure what Drake Kerr was thinking on that one, but the Miners do get on the board. He makes the 3rd out, but Scow comes around to score on the E6. Another unearned run, but a run the same. The Miners jump out to a lead. They lead it 1-0 after 3. 1-0. Into left field, past the glove of Richard for a base hit, so the bill comes due for Dete. He almost escapes, but not quite. A run comes in to score in Mitat. 1-1. The number of unearned runs per team, and also the score on the scoreboard.
Dete will watch this one be laid down for a bunt. It's a nice bunt right down the third base line. The throw is, as there's a collision, the ball is going to get away. A run's going to score for the Oilers, and Peninsula has taken the lead on a wild carom. Spaceman Nick Ferry unable to get the baseball, and Peninsula scores a run for the Oilers. That could change right here. This is going to be a chopper to short, and Richard can't field it cleanly. A run's going to score for the Oilers. Cole Wilson comes home. It's an E6 and a 3-1 lead for Peninsula. 7th, here's a bunt laid down beautifully along the first base line. A run's going to score, and Mat-Su has brought it to a 1-run game. A sac bunt for Drake Kerr has brought in Nick Bisaccia, and it's a 3-2 ball game. Trying to make a huge impact. Opposite field shot. This one is going to get down for a base hit. Blake Bout scores an RBI, and Mat-Su has tied the game at 3 runs apiece.
An incredible piece of hitting. Blake Bout, in this game alone, has pulled himself into a tie for the lead among the catchers on the Mat-Su Miners with 2 hits on the season, but he's got him in 2 of his first 3 at-bats as a starter, and he's already got his first RBI too. Mat-Su fights back and ties the game. Hit into right field on a rope. Ranging over is the right fielder making the catch there, Kyle McCausland. But towering will be the go-ahead run. His name is Kyle McDaniel. The leadoff walk comes back to bite the Miners, and it will be 4-3 in favor of Peninsula. Top of the 9th. Oilers leading the Miners 4-3. If Mat-Su wants to stay in this game and eventually get their first win of this road trip, they're going to have to score here, and they've got Bisaccia, Scow, and Kerr due up. That's hit into left field, dropping down for a base hit. A leadoff single. Nick Bisaccia is 3 for 4 today. Where would the offense be without him? He starts the 9th off with a hit.
Signature day for Nick Bisaccia, and what a single into left field. Berkey couldn't do anything about it, just had to watch it drop down. He has done well at getting it into the gap in left field and up over the head of the infielders. He comes through yet again. Mat-Su's in business, and the offensive spark plug in this game has been Nick Bisaccia.
Outside, and that goes to the backstop. Mitat can't get his glove on it, so into second now on the pass ball is Bisaccia, the tying run at second base. 2-2. Into right field, right into the glove of the second baseman Rothwarg. An excellent play to prevent multiple base hits. That will be out number 1. Bisaccia stays where he is. 0-1 to Drake Kerr, the Texas A&M Corpus Christi Islander. Arbach, and he hit him. Plunked him right on the shoulder. Drake Kerr's fired up, shouts back at his bench. He's got adrenaline running through his veins, probably didn't even hurt. Might be feeling that in the morning, but right now that is a badge of honor. 2 men on, 1 out. The Miners threatening.
Not going to risk trying to lay down that bunt.
And he got him with the high strike. Ryan Richard, a half-hearted swing. He knew it immediately. And the Miners down to their last out. How his new team would love him. And he hits the first one right at the shortstop, throwing on to second for the force, and that'll do it. There was drama at the end, but Peninsula gets the win. 4-3. They take the first two against the Mat-Su Miners to even the season series, one which started with Mat-Su winning 9-2 and 10-1 in their home field. The Oilers haven't been quite as dominant, but they have responded in kind with a pair of home wins, and the Mat-Su Miners continue to look for answers on the offensive end. They had opportunities in this game, but they could not deliver when it mattered the most. And I imagine it'll be a very similar scene inside the post-game locker room today. Well, Dylan, that just continued the trend that got started in Game 1. The Miners get into scoring position, but when it matters most, they just can't deliver.
Yeah, that's been the biggest problem for Mat-Su in this series, is their inability to score runners while in scoring position. So I think Mat-Su, going into this game, they need to be more consistent from the plate and with the bat. That is what's going to spark that offense and get them back where they need to be.
It was the top scoring offense in the ABL through their first set of games, but on the other side of the MLB showcase, they just haven't been the same. They doubled up the Oilers yesterday in hits, 8-4, and the Oilers out-errored the Miners too, but it did not represent that way on the scoreboard with the Oilers taking it 4-3. What's that lineup going to look like today, Dylan?
All right, so for the Mat-Su Miners starting lineup, leading off will be Blake Boutz, the catcher. Then it goes Christian Perez at DH. Dom Patrizzi is back at shortstop. Nick Ferry at first base once again. Kyle McCausland in right field. Nick Bisaccia moves to the hot corner tonight. Riker Scow in left field. Ryan Richard back at second base. Drake Kerr as usual in center field. And Noah Kendrick getting his first start of the year for Mat-Su on the bump.
A couple notable absences in their lineup there, most notably Chase Wilcox, who had a monster game the last time these two teams played in Herman Brothers, but he's been absent the last couple here in Kenai. On the Oilers side, Petey Soto returns to the lineup as the leadoff man. Kyle McDaniel is second baseman. Colin Robson out in center field, with Elijah Vogelsong Lewis out in left. Ty Thomas, the third baseman today. Cole Wilson completes the outfield trio with Zachary Ferris at first. Braden Smith making his catching debut against the Miners. Max Rothwark, the DH tonight, and Jacob Tabor making his second start of the season against Mat-Su. Well, that is it for our pregame show. The action coming right on the other side of this break. We'll see if the Mat-Su Miners can get back into the win column in a much-needed day here today between the Peninsula Oilers and your Miners. Right after this, don't go anywhere.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Kenai Peninsula where the time is now for the Mat-Su Miners. If they want to come back and win this series over the Peninsula Oilers, they must win the next 3 consecutive games here at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark. The last 2 losses have both been heartbreaking and frustrating to Mat-Su, but Charlie, this team is now refocused and re-energized as they look to get back on track here this evening.
Well, they have to be. When you lose 2 games the way they have, as painful as is possible. Last night, a 4-3 loss when in the top of the 9th they had 2 men in scoring position and could not score a run. Somehow, the first game of this road trip even closer. That was a 1-1 tie that went the Oilers' way by way of the ABL's extra innings sudden death rule. Tonight, they're going to hope to try and get back in the win column, and they'll do it against Jacob Tabor, a man they've hit pretty well this season.
That they have. Last night, the Miners lost despite out-hitting Peninsula 8-4, and they, once again, like we talked about in the pregame show, struggled immensely with runners in scoring position, and it cost them chances to take control of this game. But, like you mentioned, they have had success against Jacob Tabor in the past. They played them in the first game between these 2 teams back on June 9th. He had 4 innings pitched but gave up 4 earned runs and 4 hits to the Miners. So Mat-Su is hoping that tonight they can have similar success against him on the bump.
They've got a funky-looking lineup, a few notable changes in the order. Blake Bouts leading off today. He's the 3rd different leadoff hitter they've had in as many games, with Dom Patrizzi hitting 3rd instead of his typical spot at the top of the order. Christian Perez 2nd, Patrizzi, as I mentioned, 3rd. Nick Ferry in cleanup, who had 3 hits last night. Kyle McCausland batting 5th. Nick Bisaccia, Riker Scow, Ryan Richard, and Drake Kerr, the 9-man unit that will face off against Tabor.
So here we go. Blake Bouts leading off for the first time ever for the Mat-Su Miners. Here in the order, it'll be Bouts, Perez, and Dom Patrizzi, 1, 2, 3 leading off. Tabor on the bump for Peninsula. Game 3 of Oilers Miners here in Kenai. Here we go. And there's a low pitch by Tabor. The count goes to 1-0. Defensive lineup for Peninsula. Tabor on the bump. Braden Smith, the catcher. First baseman, Zach Ferris. Third baseman, Ty Thomas. Shortstop, Petey Soto. Second base, Kyle McDaniel. Right field, Cole Wilson. Left field, Elijah Vogelsong. And Colin Robson is in center field as that one is fouled off by Bouts, and the count goes to 1-1.
Bouts had a great day yesterday in his first start with the Miners. He had a pair of hits, went 2 for 5 overall, but when it mattered most, in the top of the 9th, he grounded into a force out at second base to end the game.
Yeah, it was his first start as a Miner yesterday, and he had 2 crucial runs batted in, but just didn't have enough in the end to lift Mat-Su to a victory as that goes in for a strike. 1-2 count, nice breaking ball by Tabor.
For those looking on the website for the box score of last night's game or updated stats, there's some issues going on with Presto Sports right now. We're hoping to get those resolved by the end of this game, so bear with us.
This is going to be a softly hit ball right to the third baseman. Throw to first is going to be in time. A 5-3 putout. Nice work by Ty Thomas. 1 away.
A good start bodes well for this Oilers defense that has had so many issues in the past. Ferris, in particular, not exactly as sure as they come at first base, but he makes the play there.
Yeah, able to handle the baseball very well. That'll send on Christian Perez, the DH, who's been in a bit of a hitting slump as of late. Not his usual explosive self after his Player of the Week honors that he received just a couple days ago. He's hoping that tonight he'll be able to rekindle that fire as he fouls this one low for an 0-1 count.
He was 0 for 4 yesterday, came into yesterday's game batting .294, so that definitely took a big hit. He had been excellent, as you mentioned, in the weekend change prior to that, because we don't hand out Player of the Week awards to just anybody.
That's right. We are very, very critical when it comes to Player of the Week, and we take our time to decide it. And Perez was certainly the star of the show many times for Mat-Su. Tabor trying to limit him once again. Count is 0-1. Let's see what Tabor has in store. Tries a fastball. It's going to be a bit high and inside. Count goes to 1-1. Tabor, a southpaw out of Toledo. Galena, Ohio is his hometown. Had a great season for the Rockets this past year, a 3.35 ERA, 39 strikeouts. As that one's going to be ball number 2. He was used mostly as a bullpen arm for the Rockets and had a season-high 3 1/3 innings pitched against Notre Dame and had the most saves on the team by a wide margin. A 2-1 pitch by Tabor. Perez with a chopper right side, right to the second baseman. Throw to first in time easily. 4-3 put out this time, and 2 away.
So Toledo getting the best of 2 hitters from the West Coast so far. Let's see how the East Coast can fare. Don Patrizzi, a New Jersey man.
East Coast represent. Don Patrizzi, the shortstop, at the plate for Mat-Su. Man from New Jersey. Back in the lineup tonight. He was only used as a pinch hitter in last night's game. Pitch on the way from Tabor. Patrizzi lets it go by. It's in there for a strike. 0-1.
Last night was the first game all season Patrizzi didn't start. He has appeared in every game this year. But this is the first time he is not led off while starting a game at shortstop today.
Yeah, he was the second baseman in game number 1 as this is fouled directly into the netting, and the count will quickly be 0-2.
Second base is his native position with the Lehigh Mountain Hawks, but they're interested in moving him over to short this upcoming season, and the ABL is uses sort of a test lab for him to learn that position. It's been a rocky start. He's had a few errors this year, but he's getting better with each and every game, and he's hoping he'll make a big step forward down here in Kenai.
As that one goes into the net, count will stay at 0-2, and like you mentioned, he's hoping to take that next step here in Kenai this week and find that initial surge that he had this season. Has already had so many great games and still maintains the lead as the ABL's RBI leader. This pitch is just outside for ball 1. Nick Ferry currently on deck for Mat-Su. He's going to be staying at his first baseman spot today. Nick Bisaccia is going to be in the hot corner, which is a spot that he has not been in too often this season.
He's been great at second base and shortstop, though, so I imagine third base won't be too foreign for him. Patrizzi with Lehigh hit 132 over the course of 24 games that he appeared in. Was not a starter very often, but coming out of high school, he was the number 10 shortstop in the state of New Jersey, originally from Marlton.
So that pitch goes inside for a 3-2, and that experience that he had with Lehigh, even though it was limited, is so valuable to him and has benefited him immensely here in this ABL season, has allowed him to get off to such a hot start. Payoff pitch, high fly ball towards right but fouled, and the count will stay full at 3-2.
I've been to Lehigh. I visited there when I was touring colleges a few years ago in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, right on the banks of a river whose name I can't quite remember, but it's a beautiful campus right on the side of a very steep hill. I don't envy him having to walk up and down that hill every day.
Pops this one up and fouls it off as well, and a few hills down in Lehigh, but makes for a nice workout if nothing else for Don Patrizzi, and I'm sure in Alaska he's had to deal with a bit of elevation change as well. There's so many mountains in this state, so in a way there's some familiarity there. Patrizzi trying to send this one skyward. So a 3-2 payoff pitch. Patrizzi lets it go by, and that's going to be walk number 1.
That was an excellent take by Patrizzi right at the bottom of the zone. I wonder if last night maybe the zone was a bit bigger. That call might have gone the Oilers' way, but so far this umpire has been consistent with that underside edge of the strike zone, and Patrizzi takes advantage. First base runner allowed by Tabor.
Yeah, good recognition, partner. Patrizzi did a good job of letting that one go by. And now we've got a runner on first for the first time today for Mat-Su. It's Nick Ferry at the plate. The left-handed batter lets this go by, and that's in there for a strike, 0-1.
Ferry, as I mentioned yesterday, had his best game of the season with a hit as well as a walk in the 8th inning that nearly led to a run.
Count is 1-1 here for Tabor. This is going to be a softly hit ball right along the first base line. Picked up by Tabor, thrown to first, and it's in time. Nice pickup by Tabor over to Zach Ferris. That's going to be a put out, and that will end the top half of the first inning. So the Miners come up scoreless. The Oilers looking to take another lead here in this game. We'll be right back after this. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Jump around in full store here in Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call with you. We're in the bottom half of the first inning between the Mat-Su Miners and the Peninsula Oilers. Still scoreless between these two foes. It's been two low-scoring games so far in the series, and we'll see if we're in for a third tonight. Noah Kendrick on the bump starting off for Mat-Su here in game number 3.
Kendrick out of Nederland, Texas, a freshman. Sam Houston had an 18.00 ERA across 4 innings pitched for the Bearcats. Out of Nederland High School was a third baseman and a pitcher. The 16th ranked third baseman in the state of Texas out of high school, but was converted to an arm in his freshman year with Sam Houston. So far with the Miners this season, Kendrick has appeared twice, 4 2/3 innings, has allowed 2 hits and 1 run for 1.93 ERA.
And Kendrick has been a wizard when it's come to strikeouts this season, as that's going to be a ball for a 1-0 count. Soto back in the order tonight. He was out for Peninsula last night as Cole Dawson took over at shortstop. There's a curveball. Count goes to 2-0. Soto, though, was playing in game number 1 against Mat-Su at short.
Kendrick with 6 strikeouts, that leads the team, an 11.57 Ks per 9 innings.
This is going to be a ground ball past the third baseman, Visaccia, and that is going to be an infield hit for the Peninsula Oilers, a leadoff single for Petey Soto as Visaccia couldn't handle it.
That was ripped right at Bisaccia, playing a position he's not quite familiar with. I do think if he had gotten his glove on that, he would have been able to make the play because he was running towards first base already. But I'll defer to you on whether that's a hit or an error. Regardless, a runner on first to begin the game.
Yeah, it was very close, right in the border between whether or not it was an infield hit or an error. I'll call it a single for now. We'll see if that changes later on. Kyle McDaniel at the plate. Scoreboard says it's a hit. McDaniel with a liner into right field for another base hit. 2 straight singles for the Peninsula Oilers. Back-to-back first Soto and now McDaniel.
Well, no doubt about that one. Right through the gap on the right side. And no, Kendrick's thrown 2 pitches, and he's already got a pair of base runners. Not the start you want to see.
Yeah, this is not ideal for the freshman out of Sam Houston, Noah Kendrick, who has in the past been so good against Peninsula. But here early on, he is struggling against the Oilers. In his first appearance against Peninsula, had 3 2/3 innings pitched, only allowed 2 hits and 1 earned run, had 4 strikeouts. Here's a bunt laid down, and it's fouled into the batter's box.
It's interesting they have Robson bunting here. You'd think with the power off of his bat, they might let him swing, but I guess with runs being scored as infrequently as they have been this series, you want to try and get any score you can get.
Peninsula trying to get early control of this game. Pitch by Kendrick, it's a curveball, and it's in there for a strike. And that's the kind of pitching that Mat-Su hopes to see tonight from Kendrick.
Of course, he's a strikeout man. You see the movement he has on that curveball. He's made a lot of guys whiff with that particular pitch.
So the count is 0-2. Mat-Su trying to get their first out defensively of the game. Pitch by Kendrick. Robson swings and misses, and there's the strikeout. Noah Kendrick's known for them, and he's got his first of the night right there.
Absolutely massive. Now you're a double play away from getting out of the inning.
Strikeout swinging on Robson, who has struck out his fair share of times this year. Now Elijah Vogelsong Lewis, the left fielder, comes on for Peninsula, the cleanup man in the order.
Vogelsong Lewis hitting .364 on the year, 4 hits and 11 at-bats. I'm not sure if that stat sample includes all the games the Oilers have played, considering the Presto issues we've been having, but still an exceptional hitter.
Yeah, he also, as this one is in there for a strike count going to 0-1, he also had the night off last night for Peninsula. Now back in left field for the Oilers. He's got runners on first and second in McDaniel and Soto.
Along with his pitcher, he's also an Ohio man out of Portsmouth, Ohio, and Marshall.
One of the D1 schools that Peninsula has a player coming from. There's a couple of D1 schools that are prevalent in Peninsula's roster. Marshall and Rice among those. Count going to 1-1 here. Rice out of the American Conference. Marshall out of the Sun Belt. Noah Kendrick with a 1-1 situation trying to get strikeout number 2. Runners go. It's going to be fouled off the end of the bat of Vogelsong as he just barely caught enough of it.
Big swing there in favor of the Miners. It's good on Noah Kendrick to leave that pitch high. Not that he could have known the double steal was coming, but prevented Vogelsong Lewis from really doing anything with it. And if he hadn't made contact, do you think Bouts might have been able to throw out McDaniel going for second?
Yeah, Soto was already making his way to third pretty quickly, as was McDaniel the second. Pitch by Kendrick, and it's another swing and a miss. Noah Kendrick has responded after giving up 2 straight singles. He now has 2 straight strikeouts.
Well, the stats don't lie. It turns out he had 6 coming into this game in just 4 2/3 innings, and that K per 9 is going to skyrocket even more. Before he's even thrown 9 innings this season, he's up to 8.
As we now have Ty Thomas at the plate for Peninsula, the third baseman, back in the hot corner tonight, as he has been throughout this series so far, has been very solid in that spot. Thomas last night had 4 at-bats and 1 hit. Pitch by Kendrick is in there for a strike. Count goes to 0-1.
So far this season, Thomas hitting 111. I believe that does not include last night's game.
Thomas also scored a run. He was the first baseman for Peninsula in last night's game. A bit out of position from where he usually is, but delivered pretty well. Pretty well, as that's going to be a curveball just outside the zone to even the count at 1. Temperature here in Kenai is still relatively chilly. It's about 55 degrees outside right now. It's supposed to be in the 60s tomorrow for game time. But it certainly is a very big situation for Matsu to deal with as there's strike 2. Count goes to 1-2 on Thomas.
I gave a fist pump there that Dylan saw for 2 important reasons. One, Noah Kendrick is now 1 strike away from striking out the side here after giving up a pair of singles. And 2, we have achieved Presto Stats has recognized Wednesday's game between these 2 teams. So soon enough, we might be seeing the stats looking the way they're supposed to.
All right. Shout out to our man over at Presto Sports, Dustin, for working overtime and helping us to get that back up. And hopefully we'll have all the updated stats for you watching along at home. Now Thomas with a 2-2 count. Kendrick 1 strike away from 3 straight Ks. And this one, again, just can't find the zone. So after an 0-2 start, 3 straight balls, and a chance for Ty Thomas to force a walk and load the bases for the Oilers. A massive payoff pitch coming up from the freshman. Kendrick, the payoff, and he found the zone. 3 straight strikeouts for Noah Kendrick. What a response after giving up 2 straight singles to start the bottom half of the first. Kendrick, the strikeout specialist, doing what he does best. We'll be right back for the top of the second. Matsu's offense looking to respond. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to the Peninsula. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call with you this evening. This is Game 3 of a 5-game series between the Matsu Miners and the Peninsula Oilers here in Kenai. Score 0-0 between these 2 teams. Peninsula with 2 hits in the bottom half of the first, but no runs secured after 3 straight strikeouts by Noah Kendrick. And here's a strike delivered by Jacob Tabor. This is Kyle McCausland at the plate. 5, 6, 7 due up in the order for Matsu.
You want to talk about pitching, giving the hitting some momentum. That is the best you could possibly ask for from your pitcher to start the game. Give up a pair of singles, obviously not ideal, but then to power his way through without allowing as much as a runner to advance. 3 straight swinging strikeouts. You got to make something out of that if you're Kyle McCausland and the Miners.
Yeah, it was looking rather troublesome at the start. Peninsula seemed to have all the momentum, as that's a check swing by McCausland. Appeal to the first base umpire. It's going to be ball number 2.
McCausland this season, we now can say with absolute certainty, is batting .130 with 0 runs batted in, just 1 walk drawn. He is still trying to find his footing here in this rotation. He's been great in the outfield, but not done as much with his bat as his incredible resume from Middlebury College would suggest. One of the greatest hitters at that particular school.
Here's a high chopper up and over the glove of Tabor. It bounced off. The throw to first is in time. Oh my gracious. I believe that was Kyle McDaniel who somehow came over and got it to Ferris.
It was, and that was incredible, especially the ball slowed way down after it went off of Jacob Tabor's glove. He was able to get it in. McCausland couldn't beat out the throw, and that's a rough way to lose what is potentially a gift-wrapped infield hit. So 1 away for Nick Bisaccia.
Yeah, it looked like a sure thing. Tabor had the ball deflect off of his glove, and somehow McDaniel able to get his glove on the baseball in time and then zipped that thing over to the first baseman. Here's a pitch that is delivered as a strike to Nick Bisaccia, working as the third baseman tonight. Hasn't seen any action yet defensively from the hot corner.
Actually, he had that play to start the game,
Right.
that bobble that could have been
High above the zone for a 1-1 count.
With his bat, Bisaccia has developed into one of the best hitters on the team. .333 with a run batted in, 3 walks, and 15 at-bats on the season.
Matsu, after last night's game against the Oilers, as this is a high fly ball that is fouled to the right of the right field line. After last night's 8-hit performance, they have increased their batting average to .203 on the season, but that was part of the disappointment last night. 8 total hits to Peninsula's 4, and yet they still lost by 1 run. So they are looking to be much more consistent when it comes to scoring runners in position. It's been their lone defect this series. There's a high fly ball to center. Robson chasing after it, and he does make the catch. 1 away.
Barely even had to move on that one.
So Bisaccia out. That's actually going to be 2 away after the fly out to center field. Riker Scow will come on for Matsu, the left fielder, after McCausland and Bisaccia are both retired. Riker Scow, of course, caught up in the middle of that controversy at the end of game number 1.
We say that as if he did anything controversial. Well, he kind of did. He may or may not have tagged early from second base, trying to advance to third in that 11th and final frame. Umpires decided that he did. Replay evidence from our broadcast was inconclusive at best. Not that the umpires had access to that. It was just a judgment call.
Yeah, it was one of the strangest endings in Alaska Baseball League history. One of the odder things that you'll ever see on a baseball diamond, as that's going to be ball number 2.
I don't think it's a stretch to call that extra innings rule controversial, because I've heard people from both teams, fans as well, saying that it's confusing at best and infuriating at worst. So you have to wonder if that might get tweaked in the coming months, or at the very least by the start of next season. It just kind of leaves everybody in a state of confusion, or at worst, utter just anger, which is what happened, at least on the Matsu side, a couple nights ago.
Well, there has been discussion about potentially changing the rule. No official word yet from the ABL, but we'll see if that comes to fruition in due time. For now, Riker Scow with a 2-2 count, trying to avoid having this side retired. Scow lets it go by, and that was a good decision. That pitch low and in the dirt. Ball number 3, and the best man on the Miners when it comes to forcing walks is trying to force yet another one right here.
Yeah, he's faced 6 of them this season, which is a 3-way tie for the lead with Chase Wilcox.
The 3-2, Scow, he swung and missed at it. So Riker Scow strikes out to Jacob Tabor, and that does indeed retire this side. So we remain scoreless in Kenai. We'll be right back for more Matsu Miners baseball. You're watching it all on YouTube. Welcome back to the Matsu Miners YouTube channel. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows with you. Here is a foul ball off the end of the bat of Cole Wilson. The count goes to 0-1. May have not even made contact with it, but either way, it's a strike. Count goes to 0-1.
Trying to end the swinging strikeout streak that Noah Kendrick's working with, 3 dating back to last inning.
That bounces off the pads of the catcher Blake Boutz. Count goes to 1-1. Boutz making his second straight start at the backstop spot. Cole Wilson making his second straight start for the Oilers as well, playing as the right fielder today. And there's another wicked curveball by Noah Kendrick, brings it to a 1-2 count. So Cole Wilson out of UC San Diego in San Diego, California. He's going to lightly hit this one fouled, and the count will stay at 1-2.
Head coach Tyler Brunn trying to get a handle on his catcher rotation now that he has all 3 of them here in Alaska. Logan Vaughn had struggled to hit earlier in the year. Brandon Durand was inconsistent. All 3 of them are great defensively. But Boutz has been the best hitter of the 3 so far.
And he hit him.
Yeah.
He hit Cole Wilson, a hit by pitch to lead off things here in the bottom half of the second inning. Looked like it caught Wilson somewhere around the thigh area. Either way, he's on to first, and Zach Ferris coming up.
For the second straight inning, Kendrick has got a man on base to start the frame. See how he navigates it this time.
Ferris, the first baseman at the plate. Now runner on first for the second straight inning, like you mentioned, for Peninsula. And Ferris trying to get on base as well. Here's a softly hit ball right to the first baseman. Throw to second is not going to be in time, as it was Dom Patrizzi who came over. It looked like Ferry was going to be able to get it to him and get out Cole Wilson, but instead Wilson able to slide in just in the nick of time.
That's an ultra-rare throwing error on Nick Ferry at first base. Normally he's so great with the glove there, but that throw was just not good. Went away from the dish at second base, and he could have just had the free force out if he had stepped on the bag. Instead, he chose not to for reasons I don't quite understand, and now everybody's safe.
And here's a bunt laid down by Braden Smith, and there's going to be a slip and a fall for Nick Bisaccia, and all of a sudden the bases are low. It looks like just lost his footing in the infield.
I thought that
actually
might have been the pitcher.
That might have been Noah Kendrick. My apologies. Yeah.
So back-to-back errors have the bases loaded with no outs. Even worse situation than they were last inning. Can you get 3 straight swinging strikeouts? Maybe, but at the very least, you don't want to be relying on that as a consistent strategy. Blake Boutz talking to Kendrick, patting him on the back, telling him to focus, but a hit by pitch, an error on the first baseman, and now an error on Kendrick himself have got the bases juiced.
You have to forgive me, folks. I looked away for just a second to see who that was batting because they were moving so fast, and all of a sudden Braden Smith's laying down a bunt and somebody's slipping and falling. And now the bases are loaded for the Oilers. This is Max Rothwarg at the plate, the DH. Here's a curveball high by Kendrick, and this is a heck of a jam to try to get out of.
Rothwarg, a very dangerous hitter as well so far this season, with a .267 average, only driven in 1 run, but can get a couple more here.
This time he does find the zone. Perfect pitch. Exactly what the doctor ordered. 3-1 count. Bases juiced. Matsu trying to get out of this with limited damage.
Had to find the strike zone there, and he did.
This is going to be a fly ball into right field for a base hit. It's going to get down. A run's going to score easily, or will it? Yes, the run does come in time. That was incredibly close for Cole Wilson, but he does get there, and the score is going to be 1-0. Now, hold on a second. The home plate umpire is...
I don't think he touched the bag. That's what Kendrick and now head coach Tyler Brunn are talking about. I think he should have been out. So the umpires are going to talk.
Yeah, they're going to have a conversation about it. That was a heck of an effort by Kyle McCausland, the right fielder, to get after that baseball, and now we'll see.
I just watched, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Dylan, but I just watched the replay on the little playback window on the YouTube studio, and it looked like he slid very early and his foot didn't quite get to the bag before the tag was applied. I was going to say it looked like he was out through our vantage point, and
right.
If he is, that's a heck of an effort by Kyle McCausland. I didn't think that was even going to be close, but he unleashed just a perfect throw right to Blake Boutz. The umpires are going to confer here, and I honestly don't know what's going to happen, but to our naked eye, it looked like the throw just beat him.
But remember, these umpires don't have the luxury of replay like we do. And let's see here. They're going to...
They're calling out Larry McCann to talk now.
Yeah, they're going to have a conversation with the Oilers staff.
It's like a trial. They're getting eyewitness accounts.
So we're going to see what develops in this situation. Again, the call was that Cole Wilson was able to get home. And I'm with you. I thought Kyle McCausland had no opportunity to get that to home plate. That's why I was sure it was going to be a run scored. And somehow he unloaded the cannon and got it to home plate. And it looked to me that Boutz was able to secure that out. And they are going to call it. They reversed the call. So instead of a run scored for the Oilers, it's taken off the board. An incredible throw by Kyle McCausland steals a run away from Peninsula.
That is the throw of the year for the Mat-Su Miners, and it could not have come at a more crucial time. And I suppose that's what goes around comes around for the Miners. They lost a win based on the umpires conferring and changing a call in Game 1. So here's a little payback. Noah Kendrick's still got to get out of this jam, so it's far from over. But one out is recorded, and the Oilers still off the scoreboard.
Petey Soto at the plate, and all of a sudden this game is completely flipped on its head. Score still 0-0. Here's a swing and a miss by Soto, and that's strike two quickly. 0-2 count.
Okay, so yeah, we've got a message in the chat here, and I think what the confusion was that since the bases were loaded, it was a force out. So all Boutz had to do was step on the bag.
Right.
Which he did, clearly, before Wilson got in. And I think that was what the umpires were talking about, and they determined that he was there. The throw got there before Wilson did, and it was a force out. There was no tag needed. So that's a pretty easy call to make as long as you had umpires in different parts of the field that confirmed that, yes, indeed, the throw did beat him. So a big break for the Miners, but can Kendrick capitalize on it?
1-2 count. High fly ball into left field. Chasing after it is Scow. He makes the catch. Boy, almost had a collision. A run's going to come in for the Oilers. And the score is now 1-0 Peninsula. So a sacrifice fly for Petey Soto.
Yeah, Drake Kerr tried to come in and swoop in and snag that ball, possibly trying to make a throw by himself, and it messed with Scow enough that he wasn't able to throw right after making the catch. Probably wouldn't have gotten Ferris out at home anyway, but you know, the run does score, but at least it's not 2-0.
Exactly, and that should be out number 2 for Mat-Su now. It was Zach Ferris who comes home, and it's now a 1-0 lead for the Oilers. So 1 out away from ending the bottom half of the second is Kendrick in this defense. This ball popped up into foul ground, going towards the fence. Bisaccia chasing after it, and he cannot make a play as it bounces off the gravel over there.
If he had jumped maybe a half second earlier, he could have maybe had a chance at that, but even still, he would have been catching it over his shoulder on the gravel. Not something that these players are comfortable with, running on gravel with cleats. Not something that is the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, it is not a very, doesn't have a lot of traction over there, we'll say. And I don't think there was really a lot of opportunity for Bisaccia with those conditions. This is Kyle McDaniel at the plate. Pitch outside, throw by Boutz back to second. It's not going to be there in time. There was a slight hesitation as he tried to get the handle on the baseball, and that may have cost him a chance at getting out the guy at second.
Well, I don't mind that because I always would rather them hesitate than throw it into the outfield because disaster can happen after that.
Exactly. Braden Smith was the man at second base. Pretty decent leadoff right now. McDaniel trying to send him home. Kendrick high and outside for ball 1.
If Kendrick can get out of this inning with just allowing 1 run after loading the bases with nobody out, that would absolutely be a win.
McDaniel had a single in his last at-bat, as did Soto. Soto just bringing in an RBI. This is fouled off the end of the bat of McDaniel. Count goes to 1-2.
Let's get your second inning-ending strikeout of the game right here, Noah. It'd be as good a time as any for one.
Umpire clarifies it's a 2-2 count. McDaniel trying to send on Smith so he can scamper home. 2-2, pitched by Kendrick. Bouncing ball to first, picked up by Ferry, and that will be out number 3. unassisted for the first baseman, but the Oilers do put a run on the scoreboard. Sacrifice fly by Petey Soto, as well as a highlight throw by Kyle McCausland, robbing a man of a run. But the Oilers on top. We'll be back for the top half of the third inning. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call with you this evening. Ryan Richard at the plate for Mat-Su after a wild bottom half of the second inning for the Oilers. Able to score one run, but potentially had a couple of others taken away thanks to some great Mat-Su defense at timely moments. This is Jacob Tabor still on the bump. Richard lets it go by, and the count will be 1-0.
Ryan Richard had a rough outing yesterday in a game where runs came at a premium. He was 0 for 5. Actually, 0 for 4 plus a sack bunt, so he did drive in a run, but was not able to get on base himself.
Yeah, it was a tough night for the man with the best batting average entering this series for Mat-Su. Ryan Richard lets this go by, and that's going to be ball 3.
Tabor, aside from one walk in the first inning, is not allowed a base runner. Had a perfect second frame. Miners just going to try and wear him down.
The Toledo Rocket trying to fire in this pitch. He does, and that's ball 4. So Ryan Richard with a leadoff 4-pitch walk on to first, and not the ideal start for Tabor and the Oilers.
Nothing good ever came from a leadoff walk, or at least nothing ever comes when the Miners are issuing it. We'll see if their bats can take advantage of the Oilers issuing one.
That's Tabor's second walk issued of the game. Also allowed Dom Patrizzi to force a walk. Now Drake Kerr, the center fielder, comes on. Had a conversation with Drake this morning. He took another dip in the Bay Area outside of Kenai, and he was very chilly, obviously, as you can imagine. Tries to lay down a bunt here. He's the best on the Miners at doing that. But he fouls it back, and the count goes to 0-1.
And by Bay Area, of course, we don't mean the sparkling waters of Southern California. We're talking about
the Kenai Bay Area.
Yes.
It's very cold in the water right now, as you can imagine, but it's a beautiful area. There's some bald eagles, some seagulls out there. Really nice. And the count goes to 0-2.
Kerr batting .280 with a .400 on-base percentage, which is second best, or third best, I guess, because there are two people tied for the lead on the Miners.
So Kerr trying to follow up on the act of Ryan Richard. Here's a chopper to second. Throw to second in time for one out, but it will be a fielder's choice for Drake Kerr to send him on to first. Richard out, one away.
Wonder if they could have gotten the... and now... Hold on, what's going on here? Did they say he ran... He got called out.
He did get called out, and there's some confusion here in the press box as well. didn't see exactly what was going on over at first base that would have
I was looking down. I was
created that.
I was scoring the play, and all of a sudden he's out. I'm not sure.
I never
what
saw a
happened.
throw to first base.
Did they say he ran out of the
Must
line?
have ran out of the base path is what we're going to assume the call is. As Blake Bounce is now at the plate. Boy, we've seen some of the weirdest things over these last few days when it comes to the rule book, and I'm going to assume that Kerr must have ran out of the path that time, and that's what created that situation or something of that nature. So we go back to Blake Bounce, and all of a sudden what looked like a sure man on first with a fielder's choice becomes 2 outs and a 2-0 count for Bounce.
Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. I have no explanation for that one.
Because we never saw a throw from Kyle McDaniel, who was able to get the out on Ryan Richard.
If anyone in the chat who was watching the picture might have had an idea of what they called, we would love to hear it, because we are stumped.
And the only thing I can think of, if it didn't involve a throw, is, like you mentioned, he ran out of the base path.
But why would he? There wasn't even a throw.
Exactly. There wouldn't have been any reason to do that. And obviously it wasn't a line shot.
That's not. It only matters if he runs out of the base path if there's a throw coming in. There wasn't even an active play at first.
Kyle McDaniel caught that on the hop as well, so that's very bizarre. 2-0 count. Now goes to a 2-1 on Bounce. We'll try to get the full story on that later.
I wonder if that is what they called. Did they say he caught it like a pop-up, but then they got the force out at second, so that couldn't have been it. It wouldn't have been a force out if it had been a pop-out.
That's going to be a swing and a miss now for Bounce, and the count goes to 2-2. And, yeah, it couldn't have been that situation, like you mentioned, because of the force out at second. So it had to be some sort of odd situation like we were discussing. We'll confirm that for you later on. A 2-2 count here. Blake Bounce trying to get on base, lets this one go by, and it's a good decision, ball 3. So
Bounce grounded out to open this game to the third baseman.
Yeah, it was a 5-3 putout. Ty Thomas able to take care of him last time. Maybe Bounce has something more in store here. Here's a bouncing ball right to first base, and the pitcher Tabor comes over. That's going to be an easy out for the Oilers. So a 1-2-3 inning in a bit of an odd way for Peninsula, but they are able to take care of Richard, Kerr, and Bounce. And that will bring us to the bottom half of the third. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. 1-0, the Oilers on top after a bizarre ruling in the top half of the third inning. But we do know now what happened. It's called an automatic double play, Charlie, and you can explain for a bit what exactly happened.
Yeah, so essentially it was an obstruction call. That's what you might know if you follow mostly Major League Baseball. It's when a runner comes into second base and doesn't slide. You have to slide by rule if there are less than 2 outs. Because if you don't slide, then that's considered interference because you get in the way of the second baseman or whoever's covering second base throwing down to first to get a double play. The umpire said that he did not slide. He ran in standing up, which by rule is an automatic double play, which is really just a tough break for the Miners because they would have had a base runner on first if it hadn't been for Richard not sliding in. He's got to remember to do that from now on.
So obstruction is the call there as that goes for ball number 3. This is Colin Robson at the plate, who struck out swinging last time to Noah Kendrick, which was Kendrick's first strikeout of the game. He has 3 total now. High ball into right for a base hit. So Colin Robson, who has been a machine against the Miners this year, has struck gold once again, a leadoff single.
And Noah Kendrick still looking for the elusive first batter of an inning that doesn't reach base.
That's going to be the 3rd hit given up by Noah Kendrick. And right now, the Oilers are once again getting things going. Robson at first, and now Elijah Vogelsong will come on, who also struck out swinging in his last plate appearance. Let's see if the Oilers can add to their 1-0 lead. Kendrick going to do everything he can to stop that. Here is a low pitch, throw to second, and not able to get Robson in time. A stolen base. Blake Boutz doing everything he could, trying to hook up with Dom Patrizzi. Did get it to him, but just not quick enough to take care of Colin Robson. So Elijah Vogelsong now with a runner in scoring position and a 1-0 count.
Robson now leads the squad with 4 stolen bases on the year, 13 total for the Oilers.
Count will go to 1-1 rather for the cleanup man. And Colin Robson's impressive year continues with Peninsula. He has got to be the most the Oilers have. He always provides big splash plays, it seems, and finds ways to get himself closer and closer to home plate. Vogelsong lets it go by, and that's going to be ball number 2.
Elijah Vogelsong Lewis was the second of 3 straight strikeout victims to end that first inning. Kendrick has gotten himself into a jam every time, but he's negotiated his way out pretty well, all things considered.
This ball popped up and fouled up and over our press box into the parking lot. Watch out windows. Count goes to 2-2.
He allowed 2 base runners to start the first inning. No runs to show for it there. Loaded the bases with nobody out after a couple unfortunate defensive plays in the second inning and allowed just 1 run. That was thanks to an incredible defensive play by Kyle McCausland out in right field. So now today he's got a runner in scoring position here in the 3rd for his first out.
The man out of Marshall, 5'10", 210 pounds, lets this pitch go in low, and the count is going to go full at 3-2. Vogelsong, a junior out of Portsmouth, Ohio, had a season-high 2 hits versus Coastal Carolina back on May 16th and 5 ribbies versus James Madison on May 12th. Had 22 appearances in 2023 as well. Now a payoff pitch, 3-2, runner in scoring position, and there's a strikeout for Noah Kendrick as he lets it rip once again, 1 away.
Vogelsong Lewis goes down on strikes for the second time, and it's Kendrick's 4th overall, another critical spot for one. Now here's Ty Thomas, who struck out his last time as well.
The strikeout specialist strikes again as Ty Thomas will come to the plate. Noah Kendrick trying to dispatch of him as well and keep Colin Robson. Kendrick, fastball low for ball 1. Noah Kendrick had 4 strikeouts in his initial appearance versus the Oilers. And now he has 4 more strikeouts here this evening. So he has had a lot of success 2-0.
Boutz did a great job keeping that in front of him to prevent the speedy Robson from advancing.
Yeah, Robson, we know what kind of speed he possesses, and if he feels there's an opportunity, he may try to steal third base as well. We haven't seen a lot of pickoff attempts by Kendrick tonight. Robson may try to exploit that. 2-0 count, and here comes one. Or at least there's a feigned throw to second. Kendrick thought about it, but decided to keep the ball in his hand. Stepping off the bag, or stepping off the rubber, rather.
Either in the batter's box or on the base paths, Colin Robson excellent at terrifying all the fielders for Matsu.
It's a juggling act. And Boutz will let that one go in for a strike. Thought about throwing it back to second and decided to keep it in his hand. Count is going to be 2-1.
That was a low strike. If that had been in closer to the zone, lucky that was called strike 1.
Ty Thomas at the plate for the Oilers. Here's a high chopper fouled towards the Miners' dugout, and the count evens at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Ty Thomas for the Oilers, the man out of Mount San Antonio College and San Bernardino, California, had a .500 slugging percentage in conference play for MSAC this year. His body for just a second. Count will stay at 2-2, and he's able to keep this at-bat alive.
Mount San Antonio College, also where head coach Larry McCann of the Oilers coaches. Thomas, one of his in-house recruits.
Thomas ready for this one, and he's going to send a high fly ball to right center field. Drake Kerr wants it and does make the catch. Robson thought about going to third, but my gracious, Drake Kerr absolutely rips a throw towards the hot corner. That was some insane power that time, and Robson with no choice but to stay at the bag.
And he would have made it too, because Kerr threw that high over the head of Nick Bisaccia. He might have even been able to score if he'd gotten a good jump, but the Miners spared from that reality. Now 2 outs against Cole Wilson, who was hit by a pitch his last time.
That was a heck of a throw by Kerr. Maybe that dip in the ocean's helping him out with power. 2 outs here, and now Cole Wilson at the plate, who had a hit by pitch by Kendrick last time out. Low pitch throw is going to be, almost over the head of Ryan Richard that time, but thankfully Richard able to bring it down. Able to get back to second is Robson. Count is going to be 1-0 to Wilson. 1-0 count for the right fielder, who had a run taken away after initially thought to have scored the first run for the Oilers. This is going to be a high chopper towards the Miners' dugout. Count goes to 1-1. It was a heck of a throw from Kyle McCausland in the bottom half of the second that prevented that run, and now Wilson looking for some measure of revenge.
I think we've got the stream back into that. We've had lag spikes before, but none quite like that. Looks like we were able to pull through, though, at least for the time being.
1-1 count. Welcome back if you are back to tuning in on YouTube. A 1-1 pitch by Kendrick, and going to be a hit by pitch, actually. I thought for a second that it got by Cole Wilson, but instead it's going to be another hit by pitch, the second straight on the right fielder.
And unfortunately for Colin Robson, he had a stolen base on that throw, but now has to go back to second. Zachary Ferris reached on an error, came around to score. The only run of the game thus far back in the second inning. So yeah, two hit by pitches and as many at-bats for Cole Wilson.
Yeah, that is for Cole Wilson. Remember, there was that one pitcher one player at the start of the year who got hit 7 or 8 times in one game. Just kept getting drilled, and now all of a sudden Cole Wilson feeling a little bit of that sting. Pitch on the way to Ferris is outside for ball number 1. Wilson is getting hits, but not in the right way. Even still, he's getting on base, and in a way, that is what is most important. Ferris will pop this one up high in the air into space. It is playable, and the catcher Baltz wants it, and he will make the catch for out number 3. So the Oilers once again come up empty. Some timely plays by the Mat-Su defense, and the score is still 1-0. Oilers on top. Charlie Fellows will take you through the middle 4 innings. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube.
To the fourth inning we go in Kenai, Alaska, a 1-0 game with the Oilers on top of the Miners as they were for so long last night as well by just one run. Charlie Fellows now on play-by-play with Dylan Simmons by my side. It's been rough going for the offense of the Mat-Su Miners. Just a pair of walks is all they've been able to muster as far as base runners. The Drake Kerr being the victim of an automatic double play notwithstanding. Not sure if he gets credit for reaching base on that one. I imagine not. Christian Perez takes strike one. He grounded out to second to start the game in the midst of a slump, as so many players on this offense are. 1-0 from Tabor, who work. He's pitched well, only one strikeout and a pair of walks, but no hits so far. And no runs by that same token.
Yeah, it's been a pretty slow start for both offenses so far, though Peninsula certainly has had better success compared to Mat-Su's offense, who doesn't even have a hit yet so far in this game. This dry spell for the Mat-Su Bats has really been prevalent throughout this entire series, and it's something that needs to be remedied fast.
2-1. Swing and a miss. Perez out of originally New Mexico State last season, heading to Sacramento State in the fall. Hits a weak grounder to short. Soto will throw on in time for out number one.
Yeah, just didn't get enough of that off the end of his bat that time, and pretty easy for Petey Soto to clean that thing up. That's a routine ground ball that he's able to make a play on every single time. Mat-Su's going to have to get some shots up and over this infield to have some success tonight, and we'll see if Don Patrizzi can potentially change that.
Patrizzi, one of two Miners to reach base so far in this game. He walked in the first inning. And he takes a high pitch here.
Mat-Su coming into this game 4-3 overall in ABL play. Peninsula now 3-3 in ABL play. So they have a chance to actually surpass Mat-Su in the standings if they can get a win tonight. It had the better win percentage.
Down the third base line, that goes off the bag, takes a bad hop into foul territory, but that's going to be a fair ball. So Patrizzi's got a single. I don't think I've ever seen a ball take a bounce like that. It hit the bag, which is automatically fair, and then it bounced high in the air over the third baseman into foul territory, so there was no possible play he could have made. Patrizzi's on for the second time, and the first hit of the game allowed by Tabor, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, it was a very awkward play like you mentioned. Thomas looking around like, hey, where's the baseball? Well, it went off of the bag, and it was fair. It's one of the oddest fair balls you'll ever see, but works out for Mat-Su, and all of a sudden a runner's on base, and maybe that will help spark this Mat-Su offense.
Ball one comes into Nick Ferry, who grounded out to Tabor on a comebacker to end that first inning. And that's a pitch way outside. Braden Smith with a nice stop. This is a reversal of the first game in that the Oilers are already out hitting Mat-Su now 5-1. Mat-Su only credited with one error on the scoreboard, although by our count they have committed two. That's right down the middle for a strike, 2-1.
Yeah, and early on in this game, Mat-Su has been trying to spark this offense, and defensively they haven't been as bad as they have in past games, although the errors have certainly played a role in that. Now it's the Oilers who aren't capitalizing.
Cutting a miss, 2-2. Nick Ferry is tops on the team, or tied rather, with Nick Bisaccia for on-base percentage at an even .444, 4 out of 9 times. So the Seton Hall players with a penchant for getting on base.
Yeah, it's been their calling card all year long, and Nick Ferry, a big part of that. This is a guy who had a 2-hit performance versus Michigan State back on February 17th. Known for playing well against the toughest of competition, and now trying to bring that resolve here.
Throw comes back to first, just a formality that. Patrizzi there. Ferry at bat, and Kyle McCausland due up, riding the high from an excellent run-saving defensive play a couple innings ago. Here's a 2-2 from Tabor. Cutting a miss. He got him on strikes, second K of the day for him, and Ferry goes down 2 away.
Yeah, that was a bit of a lower pitch that time, and Ferry just unable to make a play on it. Did everything he could, but he went a bit too early, and that's been the curveball that Tabor has used time and time again throughout this game. Big second strikeout. He also got Riker Scow swinging, so that's the kind of pitch that Jacob Tabor I'm sure we'll be looking to go back to try to get more Ks.
Kyle McCausland started the second inning off with a ground out. He fielded a base hit off the bat of Max Rothwarg back in that second inning, the bottom of the second, and unleashed a beautiful throw to Blake Boutz, who was covering home, to get a force out and save a run. The Oilers still did get one run out of that, bases loaded, nobody out jam, but honestly, all things considered, the Miners have to be grateful for that, considering that any day now their offense is going to wake back up again. Could be any one of these innings. McCausland might be the one to spark it. Runner almost went. Patrizi did a little tap dancing routine, had to switch his momentum around. And a 3-0 count here on the Middlebury man.
Yeah, we know this Mat-Su offense is really just biding its time, waiting for that moment to finally spark a flame once again. Got to be coming soon.
That'll be right down the middle. Tabor finds the zone, trying not to walk his third man. He's had a walk in 2 out of the 3 innings he's completed. Here's the 3-1. And that's hit well out to left, but foul. That had home run distance into the woods back behind the field. That had been a few feet to the right. That would have been the first home run of the season for Mat-Su, but yes, we'll have to keep waiting.
Yeah, that had some incredible distance that time. I thought for sure that Kyle McCausland, one of the better power hitters on this team, had a home run sealed up. Now he's got to come back from that and deal with a full count.
Runner goes, and a foul back into the backstop by McCausland. I mentioned his resume in college. Kyle McCausland hit .327 with 12 home runs, 50 runs batted in for Middlebury season, and that wasn't even close to his best season, which was in 2023, where he hit .431, set all kinds of batting records. Runner goes again, and that's going to be strike 3. The second straight K to end the inning for Tabor, who has a fist pump as he walks off the mound. Jacob Tabor flummoxing the Miners thus far. They can't get anything going. To the bottom of the 4th we go. You're watching Mat-Su Miners baseball on YouTube. Bottom 4 here in Kenai. The Mat-Su Miners offense continues to be stuck in neutral after what was such an incredible start to the season. A start that included wins by scores of 9-2 and 10-1 over these very Oilers at Herman Brothers Field in Palmer. The script has completely flipped, with the Miners unable to score and the Oilers taking advantage. Noah Kendrick fires one high and in, nearly his second hit by pitch. That was on Braden Smith, who reached back in the second inning on an error by Kendrick himself.
Yeah, second straight game we've seen Braden Smith, the catcher out of Frisco, Texas, plays for Oklahoma Baptist, 6'3", 220. Didn't log any playing time as a freshman, but prior to joining OBU, he played at Frisco Memorial, a pretty good high school out in Oklahoma. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year there, and holds the school records for both home runs in the season and career ERA. So he was great on both sides of the baseball diamond for his high school.
So far this season, Braden Smith is he's batting .000 in 5 at-bats, has not managed to hit, has walked, struck out 3 of those 5 times. 3-1 coming here. And that's a grounder to second. Richard to Ferry, out 1.
Yeah, that was about as softly hit of a ground ball as you'll see, and Ryan Richard with no issue He's done a great job at executing these 4-3 plays in the past. He's a very good second baseman, great shortstop as well. One great thing about Richard is that you can plug him basically anywhere in the infield and he'll have a successful outing, which we've seen head coach Tyler Brunn do time and time again this season. He is very good when it comes to any part of this baseball diamond, and he proves it once again.
Kendrick fires a fastball in. That's going to be a ball, actually. It looked right down the middle to me, but want to know the count on Max Rothwark, who got him for a single back in the second. Looked to be an RBI, but Kyle McCausland disagreed. Here's a 2-0.
He's getting guys on base and finding a way to do what Matsu was unable to do last night, and that's score with runners in position. One thing that the Oilers did well in yesterday's game was that they capitalized on opportunities. When they had runners on base, they found a way to drive them in. Only 4 hits, but they managed to execute in the most pivotal moments, and this will help them.
That's a 4-pitch walk. Max Rothwarg gets to first, and Noah Kendrick just did not even come particularly close to the strike zone on any of those pitches, so a lapse in control here.
That's the first walk he's issued today to any of the Oilers batters, and now we go back to the top of the order, which has given Kendrick problems in this game. Petey Soto already with a single and an RBI. So this is where Noah Kendrick has to be on high alert.
Petey Soto is singled and hit a sac fly, has the only RBI in the game. And he'll look at another ball, and I talked about it before, that edge underside of the strike zone. This is a high zone here by the home plate umpire.
Yeah, it looks dead on when it comes to our vantage point, but obviously the home plate umpire, like you mentioned, having his zone a little bit higher tonight, Kendrick's going to have to adjust for that.
That'll find the zone. 1-1 on Soto.
The thing with Kendrick is he loves that curveball as well, so he's got to find a way to adjust the arc of the baseball when it comes in, and that is sometimes tougher to do as a pitcher, but Kendrick, one of the best when it comes to strikeouts, can certainly adjust on the fly if he needs to.
Throw comes into first. Ferry back to Kendrick. Kyle McDaniel is due up, who also has a hit in this game. Popped him up, back out of play. 1-2.
We've talked about Petey Soto a lot this season and his ability to get leverage on Matsu, freshman out of Utah Tech. He's been one of their more consistent batters throughout this 2024 campaign. He's been tough no matter what day he's played the minors.
He has hit Matsu pretty well, too. Here the runner goes after Bouts can't handle that throw cleanly, and into second without much of a contest is Max Rothwarg.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a delayed reaction from Baltz as he tried to get it up to second. Rothwarg using his speed that time, able to get it with really no issue. Peninsula is really feasting on these stolen bases in this game. That's helped allow them to have the early advantage as well.
Here's a 2-2. Lined through the hole and left for a base hit. That'll get Soto on with his second hit of the day, and runners will be on the corners with 1 out.
Well, Petey Soto's already had a fantastic game, and this time he sends a ground ball through the left side right in to that 5-6 hole. And really nothing that Nick Bisaccia could do. Tried to make a play on it, but there was just nowhere to go. And all of a sudden, the Oilers are making some headways. It looks like Tyler Brunn is going to make his way out to the mound.
There's a mound conference coming, and there is a new pitcher coming in for Matsu. That was the 5th hit allowed by Kendrick. They don't seem to think he can wriggle his way out of this one, so they're not going to take their chances. And in his stead, it will be the reliever of choice. I believe that's number 7.
That's going to be Nolan Murphy, I believe.
Nolan Murphy, local kid, Wasilla native. Huge spot in the game. Out of the University of Central Washington. So Noah Kendrick's day is done. He gave up 5 hits, struck out 4, issued a walk and a hit by pitch, and allowed just 1 run, which was not earned. But still, got in a lot of jams, had to throw a lot. So Nolan Murphy, what can we expect from him?
Well, Nolan Murphy's a guy who we've already seen once this year, not in an ABL contest. We instead saw him in the MLB Showcase, but in his one appearance, he was pretty solid at a 2-strikeout day against the Fairbanks Goldpanners, and then with these situations in the past at Central Washington in 2024, had 2 appearances against CSU's San Bernardino and Linfield. Took the mound 6 times for the Cats in 2020. Had Alaska All-State honors in 2022 and 2021, and was an Alaskan batting title champion and a 2019 Alaska State champion, graduating from Matsu Career and Technical High School and out of Wasilla. So he checks about all the ABL boxes that you want, and he's a local legend in the Valley, now trying to become a legend tonight here against the Oilers.
Well, in Game 1, we saw Homer Alaska native Mose Hayes pitch an incredible game out of the bullpen. You wonder if maybe Nolan Murphy can emulate him here. As you said, in the MLB Showcase, he was excellent. This is his first official appearance for the Matsu Miners. He joined the team late. He suits up now for his hometown team with Kyle McDaniel due up, who is grounded out to first and singled.
Well, I've talked to Nolan the past couple days before we've gone to the games and asked him, I'm like, I know you're going to probably be in this series at some point, and asked him about his general excitement. He said, I'm ready. I'm ready for this opportunity and ready to get after it. He tells a lot of good stories about his time in Alaska and all that he's learned over the years. Can't wait to see how that comes to fruition tonight.
Runners on the corners, 1 out. Kyle McDaniel at bat. And he lays down a bunt down the first base line. Can't be fielded cleanly by Murphy. Tried to stick his glove out, but he couldn't get the ball in. So another run comes in to score. Reaching base safely is McDaniel, and it's 2-0.
Yeah, that was a situation where Nolan Murphy was trying to make a play at first. He reached out that glove, like you mentioned, and that's just a mistake that he normally doesn't make. You got to be very clean when it comes to those baseballs on the hop because they can take odd bounces sometimes, and Nolan just unable to make a play on it, and a run scores like you mentioned. So all of a sudden, this is really in the favor of Peninsula.
That run is charged to Noah Kendrick, the first earned one he is allowed. Now here's Colin Robson, who has struck out and singled. Runners both go, and that's fouled back by the center fielder.
We never really saw Murphy have to deal with that kind of situation on a potential hit by any batter in the MLB Showcase, so that was an uncharacteristic spot for him.
That would have been an incredibly difficult play for him to make.
It was going to be a hard ask no matter what, so got an opportunity to put that behind you and just focus on the task ahead, and I'm sure that that's what Nolan's going to do.
Into left field, going back Scow. He's under it, and he makes the catch for out number 2. The runners will stay where they are.
Nice work by Riker Scow and a good adjustment near the wall that time. Pretty well hit by Colin Robson, but it didn't leave the park, which against him, I guess, is a win. So Matsu will take that all day, and that's a big second out against one of the best batters that the Oilers possess. Now we'll see if Vogelsong, who's already struck out twice, may get struck out again.
He's looking for a change of fate here, facing a new pitcher, which is definitely something he appreciates. He has struck out twice, once looking, once swinging. 2 on, 2 out. A run already in, and he hits that out to center field, not too deep. Drake Kerr makes the catch, and that will retire the side. The Oilers tack on one more. They score once again, double their lead. It is a 2-0 advantage for the home team, trying to get their 3rd straight win against the Matsu Miners. You're watching the team I just mentioned trying to mount a comeback once again here on YouTube. on to the 5th inning at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark in Kenai, Alaska on the Kenai Peninsula, home to the eponymous Oilers, who have a 2-0 lead over the Mat-Su Miners in a position they have so often been in this series. They've won the first two for the first time in a few years and trying to clinch a series against a team that had so thoroughly dominated them earlier in the season. Nick Bisaccia will dig in against Jacob Tabor. Bisaccia has flied out to center field in this game. Tabor has been excellent, gave up his first hit of the game on that weird Dom Patrizzi bad hop last inning, but has not allowed any hard hit balls. In fact, the only ball he's allowed this game that has left the infield came off the bat of Bisaccia back in the second. That fell right into Colin Robson's glove.
Well, you know this has to be satisfying for the Oilers. Last year, they prided themselves on pitching. They had a 3.60 team ERA and had an opposing batting average of 2.43. So they did everything they could to play this style of baseball. And in those first two games against Mat-Su, the Miners absolutely dominated. But now, here at Coral Seymour, Peninsula has done what they've done best in these first two games. Now this first half of this game, that's control it.
On the ground is short. Soto throws on, and another no-nonsense out number one.
They haven't allowed Mat-Su to get a lot of hits past the infield last time. This time has one a little bit lower, but it's right to the shortstop, Petey Soto. And again, he's been so good at fielding those baseballs throughout this series. Does it again right here, and an easy first out.
Riker Scow has a strikeout in this game, batting with one out. Cuts and misses at the first offering from Tabor. Last game he had an interesting outing, reached on a fielder's choice, an error, had a single, also a pop out, and scored a pair of runs. Has not gotten to have nearly as much fun on the base paths today. The Miners have not had a batter reach second base yet. And a quick 0-2 on the BYU man.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of start to this inning that Jacob Tabor wants. Already has 3 strikeouts in this game. Had 2 in a row just a bit ago.
Into right field, right at the first baseman. Ferris makes the catch, out number 2.
Yeah, that was pretty easy for Zach Ferris that time. It was a decent shot off the end of the bat of Riker Scow. Nice opposite field look to it, but Zach Ferris with the great adjustment. That's an easy second out, and again, this is the problem that Mat-Su has had, just really unable to clear this infield. They've been so good defensively, and if you can't get past the infield, it's been virtually impossible to score runs in this game.
Oilers playing an errorless game thus far, which is new for them. Cut and a miss by Richard, who walked back in the third. We're already in the 5th inning, almost halfway through this game. It's just flying by. 0-1. Right at the pitcher, takes a bad hop off the mound, and that's going to get through for a base hit. So Richard aboard for the second time, and a 2-out single. Possibly the start the Miners need. They need every base runner they can get here.
Yeah, Ryan Richard had a tough day yesterday, went 0 for 5 at the plate, but this time able to get a nice comebacker up and over the mound for a single. There were about 3 Oilers who tried to do something with it, and none of them could get a handle on that baseball. Big stuff from Ryan Richard in a single that, like you mentioned, the Miners desperately needed.
McDaniel got a glove on it, but it was far too late. Richard was already at first. Here's Drake Kerr, who was the unfortunate victim of an obstruction call back in the third as a result of Richard not sliding when he came into second. He's on base ahead of Kerr now, and should that scenario arise again, I imagine that's one of those things you do once and then you never make that mistake again.
I'm sure Ryan Richard is going to be making sure that he slides every time this time.
Throw over to first. Into the dirt, but Ferris has it. Miners' offense just utterly anemic in these last 2 games and change, trying to string some hits together. They've gotten hits. That hasn't been the issue. 1-0. Just low. It's been stringing them together, sequencing. They lost art. It's impossible to master. It's just dumb luck. When you out-hit a team 8-4 and you still lose the game, it's just some very bad luck, bad ordering, bad clutch gene, whatever you want to call it. Whatever the skill you need to have to string together runs and important situations, the Miners had it originally in the season and have lost it here. 2-1 on the center fielder from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And he takes high. That was actually 3-1, so he's on with a walk. The third issued by Tabor, and for the first time all game, multiple base here for Matsu.
Yeah, you were talking about that original point, and sometimes it's not when you hit, or rather how much you hit, it's when you hit. And for Matsu, that's been the issue in this series. They can get hits, they can get runners on base, but it's just been the timing of that and their inability to score runners in position, as it looks like we're going to see our first mound conference from Peninsula today.
Nobody's coming out from the bullpen, although there has been activity out there for a little bit. And I believe the man I saw throwing was number 18, which is Colby Reynolds. So he would be the next man out of the pen when his number is called. But right now it's looking like they'll just be discussing strategy decisions as we head to the top of the order. Blake Bouts has grounded out twice.
Yeah, Bouts getting his first start at the top of the order for Matsu in this season, and thus far it hasn't quite worked out, but we know what he's capable of, and I think that head coach LeBron, thinking about what he did last night, that's the impetus behind making this decision, hoping that he'll find that once again, that 2 runs batted in performance, not something to be sleeping on.
In the dirt, Tabor suddenly having some issues with his command. He gives up a walk, and now that pitch nearly got away from Smith behind dish.
Well, you wonder if he's starting to hit that metaphorical wall at this point in the game. He's been pitching now for almost 5 innings at 4 2/3.
And that's high and away. Baltz had a great day yesterday, as we've alluded to. Had a pair of hits. Tabor going to try and collect himself. Got a little break, too, with the mound conference, but still is having trouble. His 2-0 comes in. And that misses as well. Closer to the zone that time, but still high. Richard and Kerr on second and first, respectively. 3-0 pitch coming from Jacob Tabor.
His season high was 3 1/3 in college baseball this past 2024 season, so he's gone well above that already.
And that just finds the corner.
Got a runner in scoring position if you are Matsu, and you don't have to get it all back. You're only down 2 runs. You just need to get that one play to get this offense inspired throughout the rest of this game. Ryan Richard trying to provide that.
3-1. And that's high. Ball 4. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Here in the top of the 5th with Christian Perez coming up. That's the second straight walk issued by Jacob Tabor, and now it looks as though he will be coming out of the game with Larry McCann gesturing to the bullpen, and indeed Colby Reynolds making the jog out from right field. Jacob Tabor's day is done. He is not allowed to run yet, although depending on how Colby Reynolds does, he might get a couple retroactively charged to him. Final line for Jacob Tabor, allowed just 2 hits, struck out 3, but walked 4. Threw a lot of pitches, went longer than he's accustomed to going. Had a career at Carter High School in Tennessee, a very successful one, came out of there in the state of Tennessee. So far this season for the Oilers, Colby Reynolds has appeared in 1 game, thrown 2 innings, and allowed 1 run.
Oh, goodness. That song brings me back to home. Hear that all the time back in Tennessee, and it's a song that I personally am not a huge listener of, but obviously Vols fans are, and I think we might have one on the mound right now. Either way, it makes for a pretty interesting walkout song, and Colby Reynolds, a guy who is definitely not unfamiliar with the minors this season, trying to make an impact with 2 outs and the bases juiced.
I don't think our broadcast can pick up that music, unfortunately, but it was a... I don't. Apparently, it's a University of Tennessee song.
It's
I'm
their
not
fight
familiar
song,
with it.
basically.
Okay.
Yes.
Doesn't really sound like a fight song. It's
No,
kind of
not this iteration, but the band plays it at Neyland Stadium and these other events, and it's a huge thing, and the fans sing along to it.
I see.
I know all the history when it comes to that. I've been forced to listen to it over the years. Not a Tennessee fan, but I'm certainly well acquainted with how it all works.
I was watching. I'm pretty sure there were highlights playing on the TV at the Airbnb we were staying at of Tennessee in the College World Series, walking off a game. I believe that might have happened yesterday.
Yeah, it was against Florida State earlier in the week in that dramatic 12-11 game, and They're in the finals of the College World Series now, where the Vols trying to take on and defeat Texas A&M. It's going to be a heck of a final.
Christian Perez in a critical juncture here. He is 0 for 2 today with a pair of groundouts, but could this be the moment he finally snaps out of his slump in a big way? Bases juiced, 2 outs, a 2-0 lead for the Miners, but it could all disappear with one big swing of the bat. Perez swings there, but comes up empty.
If he's going to get out of his hitting slump, now's the time to do it. You've got the bases loaded, and if Matsu, again, strands runners in scoring position and strands 3 runners on base, it's going to be an opportunity that they may not get again in this game, so got to try to find a way to capitalize.
A 1 down and in from Colby Reynolds.
We saw this cost them time and time again, both in games 1 and 2. In fact, you can argue that in game 1, if they had scored in one of those situations, they would have won that game easily, and it would have never went to extra innings. So Matsu obviously understanding that. I'm sure Perez has had that ringing in his head throughout the week, trying to make it different right here.
1-1. Inside, and a diving stop by Braden Smith. He didn't get it in his glove, but he did stop it in the dirt, and that prevented Ryan Richard from tagging and scoring from third, so a great play there.
He was almost a goalkeeper that time, like you see in soccer. Just did everything he could to keep the ball in front of him, make sure it didn't get past him, and thankfully for his sake, it did just that. Able to prevent a run from coming into home plate.
Reynolds. A 2-1. Cut and a miss. He's 1 strike away from bailing his predecessor out and leaving the bases loaded for the Miners. And he would just add this to the montage of disappointment so far in this season, or this series rather. The Miners get so close. But can they convert here? 2-2. Down and in. Brings the count full.
So we've seen Reynolds have a couple of pitches go off the mark here in this at-bat. Opportunity for Perez to potentially force a walk. This is going to be massive. He'll have to make sure to watch where this pitch comes in. Don't swing at it unless you absolutely have to.
Just had a mascot wander in front of the camera. Hope that didn't get in anybody's way. Runners go. Swing and hit right to the second baseman. McDaniel to Ferris. And the Matsu Miners leave the bases loaded. Christian Perez with his 3rd ground out of the game. And a 2-out rally comes up just short. A familiar story here in Kenai. 2-0 Oilers. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. Bottom 5. Miners trying to pick up the pieces after yet another sandcastle falls down. And Nolan Murphy will be on for his first full inning of work to face off against Ty Thomas, Cole Wilson, and Zach Ferris. Trying to keep the deficit at 2.
Miners, again, didn't drink their orange juice. They had the bases juiced, and they didn't finish once more. So it's just been a familiar story for them in this series, and that's got to be a tough pill to swallow for Christian Perez and this entire Miners offense. Now we'll see if the Oilers can take advantage of that with Ty Thomas.
Thomas is 0 for 2 in this game with a strikeout and a flyout. Has a 1-1 count for Murphy here. Based on the scoreboard, it looks like Murphy actually was charged with an error in that last game, or the last inning rather, by being unable to field that ground out, as that's into right field. McCausland coming on, makes the grab for out number 1. We disagree with that. We don't think that there was any play that he could have made there, but the scorer disagrees, so unfortunately Nolan Murphy gets an error.
Yeah, it was a judgment call, and Murphy, like you mentioned, he was already pretty far along trying to get that baseball, and the runner McDaniel was pretty close to first base anyway, so it was going to be tough no matter what. Either way, the error applied, but I'm sure Murphy is not going to beat himself up about it too much, even though obviously a lot of these minors demand perfection. Not something he wants on his stat sheet, but something that he shouldn't be too worried about.
Cole Wilson has been hit by a pitch twice, and he takes a 1-1, offering low.
Anchorage Bucks and the Chugiak Eagle River Chinooks currently in play. Bucks up 5-0 at Mulcahy Stadium in the bottom half of the 5th inning.
That sounds about right. 1-1. Just misses. The strike zone has been small for both teams.
Yeah, it has. It's been pretty narrow so far. We saw the same thing happen for the Oilers pitchers and a little bit with Noah Kendrick. Now Murphy experiencing that.
That looping curveball gets away from Bouts. 3-1. Miners trying to do whatever they can to keep this game manageable. Because maybe, just maybe, one of these times they'll string a couple hits together in the right order and get a run. That's a swing and a miss for strike 2.
And that's a big strike forced by Nolan that time and a nice breaking ball. He's gone back to it time and time again in this game, and it has been very effective. Still trying to get that first strikeout. Let's see if he can do it.
Payoff pitch, and he does. Swing and a miss for strike 3. Bouts will throw down. And a quick and easy 2 outs for Nolan Murphy, who is cruising here just as he did back in the showcase.
Yeah, Nolan Murphy looking great. You know, we didn't get a lot of experience with Central Washington this past year, but I'll tell you what, with performances that he's having in the Alaska Baseball League, I think they'll have to look into giving him a bit more playing time next year because he has certainly been so solid so far. Obviously, still a lot left in this game, but I like the zest and the zeal he's playing with here.
Just like Mose Hayes. For some guys, Alaska just gives you a power-up. Here's Zach Ferris, who's reached on an error and popped out. He's also come around to score. 1-0. Popped him up into shallow left. Scows under it. And that's a nice, easy 1-2-3 inning. Nolan Murphy doing his job out of the bullpen. He cruises to a trio of outs, and we head to the 6th now, with the Oilers still in front 2-0. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. head to the sixth inning in Kenai, a 2-0 advantage in favor of the Oilers over your Mat-Su Miners. Charlie Fellows, Dylan Simmons, as always, bringing you this action or lack thereof, as it's been on the Miners' offensive side as of late. But one bright spot has been Dom Patrizzi, who is up right now. He's walked and singled so far in this game, and while nothing has ultimately come of either of those, he has continued to be an on-base percentage machine, just what you want. He's not hitting leadoff today, but your usual leadoff hitter to do.
Yeah, still taking on Colby Reynolds, who's had a solid enough start to this game. Got the Oilers out of that massive bases-loaded jam.
Into right field off the end of the bat. Long run for Cole Wilson, but he's under it and makes the grab for out number one.
Reynolds, the sophomore out of Knoxville, Tennessee, like we talked about. Transfer out of Walters State Community College. Had 5 appearances there with 6 innings pitched and a 1.50 ERA. Really good at Carter High School as well. This is a guy who has been solid enough to start off the year and is trying to do it once again to Mat-Su. Again, the pitching for the Oilers has been so much better in this series than it was the first couple of games against Mat-Su. I think that's something that they've got to be extremely proud of, their ability to limit this at one point red-hot offense.
Cut and a miss from Ferry. The next 4 men due up are a combined 0 of 8. Ferry is grounded out and struck out. All of those, of course, were against Jacob Tabor, however. So here's Reynolds' 0-1. Missing low. Miners just want any kind of momentum swing in their direction. Any kind of extra base hit or error on the side of the Oilers. Something that can get the guys in the dugout into it. Here's a ball hit toward the gap on the right side, throwing on bang bang play, but great job by Reynolds running to cover the bag, and a nice little out number 2.
Yeah, and that was an awkward spot for the ball right between the second and first baseman. McDaniel just able to grab it in the nick of time, and Tabor, or check at Reynolds, doing a good job of coming over, just got to the bag, and like you mentioned, bang bang, but able to get a big out on Nick Ferry. That is a quick out number 2, and again, the Miners just unable to get any leverage against this Oilers defense.
So a fast 2 outs, just like last inning. The Miners proceeded to load the bases from there. Back in the 5th, so we'll see what Kyle McCausland can do. A ground out and a strikeout today. Oh, 1. Missing high. No activity in either bullpen right now. There's some pitchers getting loose, but they've still got their warm-up jackets on, so not sure who they are or how urgent their need is. 1-1. Misses high once more. We mentioned it a couple times. This enforced strike zone forcing the pitchers to be very accurate with their offerings and leading to a number of walks. Jacob Tabor issued 4, including 2 last inning. And here's a 3-1.
Mat-Su has really been successful against Peninsula over the years, Charlie, and the last time they lost consecutive games against the Oilers here in Kenai, it's been a long time, several years. To lose 3 in a row to the Oilers would be almost unprecedented, so they're fighting for a bit of history tonight as well, and I'm sure Peninsula, understanding that, trying to get this big momentum swing, and this could be huge for them as well for the rest of their season and their hopes of the ABL playoffs.
Of course, these two teams played against each other last year in the first round of the Top of the World Series playoffs. Here's a payoff pitch, and right down the middle, Kyle McCausland knew it immediately, and that is a 1-2-3, top of the 6th. The Mat-Su Miners grasping at straws, can't string together anything. You're watching Mat-Su Miners baseball here on YouTube. Back to the action here. Bottom 6. Oilers up 2-0 on Matsu, and it'll be Braden Smith, Max Rothwarg, and Petey Soto, the three due up in the frame for the Oilers. Try saying that middle name 5 times fast. First is Braden Smith, who's reached on an error and grounded out today, facing off against Nolan Murphy, who through an inning and change, I believe an inning and 2/3, has allowed just 1 hit and struck out 1. No outs, no real pressure, which is not something that his predecessor Noah Kendrick could say.
You know, one thing I've thought about throughout the course of this series, it's been colder than it has been for any other game that Matsu has had. You wonder if temperature has anything to do with the hitting prowess and the offensive prowess. Thought for a second that one should have been a strike. I think you and me both. But you do sometimes see temperature affect the pattern of a baseball team, and you wonder if that's having any effect on Matsu. Not to say it's the only reason, but that certainly could be playing a role.
Cutting a miss, 2-2. You're right that I did think that last pitch should have been a strike. Nolan saw me gesture with incredulity. But it'll be 2-2 coming from the Wasilla man. Trying to keep the defensive side going strong, and he will. That's strike 3, his second K. Braden Smith goes down.
I love the, or actually that's a foul tip.
Foul tipped in the ground, okay. The scoreboard operator fell for it too. So 2-2. And that's hit out to right. McCausland going back. It's deep, but in the yard for out number 1.
Boy, that was almost a cataclysmic reversal for Nolan Murphy and the Miners. Thankfully, Kyle McCausland there to take care of that fly out to right. But that's got to be one where Matsu breathes a sigh of relief. That would have been a massive swing in this game.
Max Rothwarg has singled and walked, also scored back in the 4th inning on a Kyle McDaniel RBI single. Or excuse me, that was a Colin Robson flyout, I believe he scored on. He takes ball 1. Murphy. Did he go around? No, he did not. 2-0.
Little bit outside that time. That's part of that narrow strike zone we've been talking about. Murphy using a lot of that curveball early on. We've seen fastballs mixed in on occasion, usually towards the middle of the count.
Cutting a miss there. Rothwarg on the season, playing well for the Oilers. Hitting .267 with 2 walks. 1 run batted in. Here's a 2-1. Shows bunt, and well, that might have hit him, but instead it got him on his bat. Probably bunting was the wrong play there because he might have been able to take a hit by pitch.
Yeah, it looked like it was heading right towards his upper body that time, and I thought it did hit him initially. Just barely got a piece of that bat. Able to keep this at-bat alive and keep Nolan Murphy with an opportunity to potentially get a strikeout.
And that's exactly what he'll do on a sweeper in the dirt. That's the K we thought he had an at-bat ago, his second of the afternoon, 2-way.
And that was a nice low pitch that time, able to catch Rothwarg swinging. Sometimes it's very easy to catch batters off guard when it comes to those low pitches because you have such an initiative to try to swing at that. You think you can get it, and you can't. Nolan Murphy doing a great job of displaying his breaking ball prowess.
Petey Soto has had a great game. He's hit a pair of singles as well as a sac fly, so an RBI to show for it as well. He has hit the minors well this season, and he takes ball 1 from Nolan Murphy.
And again, he did not play yesterday for the Oilers. Got a day off.
Not that that mattered.
No, and his inclusion back in the order has been huge.
Weak grounder to short. Throwing on. Ferry's got it. And that's another quick 1-2-3 inning. Nolan Murphy absolutely dealing. But can the offense give him anything to show for it? We head to the 7th inning seeking an answer. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball here on YouTube. Top of the 7th at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark, home of the Peninsula Oilers, and a home they have enjoyed playing in quite a lot so far this season. They are 2-0, going on 3-0. The Miners have 9 more outs to try and take that away from him. Nick Bisaccia being the first among them.
Yeah, Bisaccia flew out to center his first at-bat and then grounded out to short. Having a bit of a tough time establishing that big shot in this game, and mostly that's been because the Oilers have been so good when it comes to their pitchers.
Swings and misses at a high fastball there does Bisaccia with Riker Scow and Ryan Richard. The other two due up. 0-1 from Colby Reynolds, still on the mound for Peninsula, finds the zone as well, a quick 0-2.
Another display of the great pitching of Colby Reynolds. Prefers that higher up pitch and did a great job of elevating that. Able to fool Bisaccia one more time. Let's see if he can finish it off.
Right down the middle. Bisaccia knew it. He's 0 for 3.
There's really nothing you can do against that. Bisaccia thought for a second about swinging. It was going to be a tough one to swing at no matter what, but he just got fooled again by Colby Reynolds, who, along with Jacob Tabor, have been so solid today. Combined, they've only allowed 2 hits to this Matsu offense, which had 8 hits total yesterday.
Well, Riker Scow is 0 for 2. If he goes hitless in this at-bat, that means batters 4 through 7 in this lineup will be a combined 0 of 12. And it's really when large patches of the lineup are just not getting hits, it's really tough to string together any kind of offense. That was fouled back. The mascot is obscuring my view of home plate right now, which is very considerate of him. 0-2 on the BYU man.
He's just trying to entertain the fans. He's just trying to have some fun today.
That's strike 3. 3 straight Ks, all of them looking by Colby Reynolds. And Riker Scow goes down on strikes for the second time. 6 total strikeouts for Matsu.
Colby Reynolds with no regards for batters. Another strikeout, and he just continues his... This guy is playing at another level right now.
It's an immaculate inning right now, I believe. Those were both 3-pitch strikeouts. So Ryan Richard is walked and singled. Anyone can foil this effort, it would be him. There's strike 1.
Yeah, the Miners need some kind of spark like we've talked about, and Ryan Richard has usually been the man for the job.
Into left field, towards the gap. Left fielder makes the catch, Vogelsong Lewis for out number 3, so it wasn't immaculate. It was actually 1 pitch less than an immaculate inning would have been, but it accomplishes the same thing. Matsu is going in the wrong direction. They've gone 1-2-3 for the second straight time, and that'll conclude a lightning quick top of the 7th. 7th inning stretch coming up, and then the Oilers will bat once more. You're watching Matsu Miners Baseball on YouTube. On the other side of the 7th inning stretch with Italian music playing over the stadium loudspeakers, it's a new pitcher into the game for Matsu. Nolan Murphy's day is done. After just 2 innings, he pitched extremely well. 2 strikeouts, 1 hit, kept the Oilers' offense at bay, but now he is replaced by the final member of this Matsu Miners lineup that has not appeared in a game yet this season, Hayden Hattenbach, making his Matsu debut.
The southpaw out of San Rafael, California, a senior out of UC Santa Barbara, 6'7", 240 pounds. He is easily the tallest player on this Miners roster, and he definitely sticks out in a crowd anytime you look through the Miners in a room. Very, very tall guy, and had a season-high 1 2/3 innings pitch versus Villanova back on March 5th. Let's see him go to work here against the Oilers.
He's facing 2, 3, 4 in the Oilers lineup. McDaniel, Robson, and Vogelsong Lewis. Kyle McDaniel with a pair of singles and a ground out today, and he hits that one into the opposite field. Riker Scow has got it for out number 1.
Opposite field shot by McDaniel that time, and great job by the left fielder Scow to come up on that. And of course, Hayden Hattenbach, a member of UC Santa Barbara, an NCAA tournament team, and a team that actually got to host a regional this past tournament. So obviously he has been around winning baseball all year long, and he's trying to bring that here to the Valley.
So the Oilers strung together a lot of hits earlier in this game, but they have not reached base since the 4th inning. It's now the 7th. Colin Robson is singled, struck out, and flied out. An excellent job. Line shot through the hole and for a base hit, just as I say it as well. Colin Robson ends that. He's got his second hit of the day, first allowed by Hattenbach.
Colin Robson's hot streak continues, and the thing I like about him is that he can deliver line shots, he can deliver far shots, and this time he brings one through the 4-3 hole and did an exceptional job of getting it past both Ferry and Richard with nothing that either one of them could do. Perfect hit into the gap, the 7th overall hit for the Oilers in this game, and right now they're starting to get something rolling once again.
Elijah Vogelsong Lewis is 0 for 3, facing off against the 6'8 left-hander with a man on and 1 out. 2 strikeouts and a flyout. For the Marshall man. And that drops right in at 0-2.
Yeah, Elijah Vogelsong has struck out twice in this game and flew out to center field last time up. So he's had not a lot of success against these Miners pitchers, making him a target for Hattenbach.
Swing and a miss. A dominant K by the lefty for a big second out. Vogelsong has struck out 3 times, and he's 0 for 4 overall. Not his day.
That's now a combined 6 strikeouts for this Mat-Su team. Hattenbach, Murphy, and Kendrick all with Ks against this Oilers roster. That's one thing that the Miners can hang their hats on in this game. The strikeouts have been at the forefront time and time again, and Hayden Hattenbach now the latest member of the strikeout club here in Game 3.
I think I've actually got a total of 7.
Might be 7, yeah.
And a big cut there by Ty Thomas, who's also 0 for 3.
The only one I questioned was the 1 for Murphy that got taken away, but that would also count because Rothwarg also was struck out, so that would be 7 strikeouts. Either way, quite a few for Mat-Su, and Hayden Hattenbach showing that he is definitely not outside that realm. Might have a chance at another one right here.
0-2, runner goes, throw comes down from Bouts, and he got him! His second pickoff of the series, and that ends the inning. Colin Robson cut down at second for the second time in this ballpark, and once again, the Miners' pitching and defense comes through to keep them off the scoreboard. We go to the 8th inning now, and if they score, I won't be the one who calls it. Dylan Simmons will take you through the rest of the way. Until then, you're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube.
Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. Drake Kerr at the plate. Mat-Su down 2-0 to the Peninsula Oilers in game number 3 of this 5-game series down in Kenai. And the Mat-Su offense has hit a dry well, but they are trying to find some gold at the end of this game. Drake Kerr at the plate, the leadoff batter in. Time is called. Colby Reynolds still on the mound. The Miners have not been held in check like this entire season, but maybe that'll change here shortly. 9-1-2 leading off for Mat-Su. Pitch by Reynolds to Kerr. This ball popped up and fouled. Count will quickly move to 0-1. Kerr did force a walk in his last at-bat.
This would be a new low for this Miners offense. As rough as it has been the last couple games, they have at least scored 1 run in each of them.
Here's the pitch from Reynolds. Kerr will pop it up into shallow center. Racing after it and making the catch here will be the center fielder Colin Robson, and 1 away.
Since the 5th inning, the Miners are now 0 for 7. Did not have a hit since that frame, just 2 overall in the game.
So not the ideal start for Drake Kerr, who has been pretty solid on offense throughout the course of the season. Not what he was looking for. Now, for the 4th time, it's Blake Boutz at the plate, who did force a walk in his last at-bat, but has grounded out in his other 2. He had a 2 RBI performance yesterday. We need that kind of production again. Boutz lets it go by, and that is low for ball 1. Colby Reynolds so far with 3 strikeouts in this game. Came in earlier on in replacement of Jacob Tabor, and has done a pretty solid job in his stead. This is a breaking ball that lands just outside the zone, 2-0. Blake Boutz 2 balls away from forcing his second straight walk. Freshman backstop out of UCLA. This time it does find the zone, the lower part for Reynolds, and the count goes to 2-1.
Reynolds can afford to pitch around people a little bit. The bullpen of this squad a little bit depleted, but he has pitched so well.
Boutz with a ground ball to second, picked up and thrown to first easily. A 4-3 putout, McDaniel to Ferris, and 2 quickly away.
And I just have not seen anything in this game that would suggest the Miners have any chance of stringing together a few hits here. Call me a pessimist, but it looks as though they will almost certainly be shut out for the first time this season.
Yeah, this Miners offense just has nothing going right for them in this game. They can't get any sort of leverage. They have not even had a runner in the hot corner throughout the entire course of this game. It's been the cold corner of first base and second base as that ball is fouled off and the count goes to 0-1.
They, of course, left the bases loaded in the 5th. Ryan Richard was at third. But other than that, they haven't even had a batter get past second, or get to second, I should say.
Yeah, outside of that, no runners in at third base. This ball also popped up by Perez, and the count goes to 0-2.
Apologize for the stream. We're not really sure what's going on here. Our hotspot has just decided to stop working, so it's slowed to a crawl. We hope we are still coming through.
Pitch from Reynolds. Perez lets it go low for ball number 1. He has grounded out 3 straight times, once to short, twice to second base. Working as the designated hitter today in this game. The 1-2. Reynolds the pitch, and that is inside and low at the knees of Perez, and the count evens at 2 balls, 2 strikes. A man who once had that signature 3-hit performance against Peninsula back in that original Sunday game. The 2-2. Perez lets it go by, ball 3. Christian Perez now with an opportunist few frames. And really for this entire game. That's going to be out number 3. Kyle McDaniel and Zach Ferris link up for another 4-3 putout. And again, the Miners come up empty. Bottom of the 8th on the way. And the Oilers still with a 2-0 lead on the precipice of clinching a series win with 3 straight victories. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call. The Peninsula Oilers are very, very close to reeling in one of the biggest fish of the season for them, which would be a series win over the Mat-Su Miners. Maybe bigger than any of the salmon you'll find in the Kenai River. There's a swing and a miss, and the count goes to 0-1 for the man who's starting off this inning, Ty Thomas, the third baseman for the Oilers.
He was at the plate at the end of last inning when Colin Robinson got thrown out.
Ball popped up. Second baseman Richard wants it. He gets it, and that's going to be out number one quickly.
As you say, the fish in the river, we haven't seen, I don't think there are any fish in the river right now because the beaches by the mouth of the Kenai near where we're staying are completely barren. Nobody around.
Yeah, it's been tough fishing for the people and the seagulls who have all been around and haven't really seen any of them carrying fish out of the bay.
Not that those things could carry a salmon.
Not quite a fish that big as the count goes to 0-1 for Cole Wilson. At the plate for Peninsula, Oilers are trying to move to a winning record in the ABL's play as this ball has popped up once again. Richard once again, and he'll make the catch once again. 2 outs.
This pitching staff for the Miners has done a really great job ever since the 4th inning when Noah Kendrick got pulled. The tandem of Murphy and Hattenbach have really silenced this Oilers offense. It just came too late, and their offense has given them absolutely nothing to show for it.
Zach Ferris at the plate. There's a strike by Hattenbach, who is picking up right where Nolan Murphy left off. Came in the 7th inning and has really not skipped a beat, and that's going to be a swing and a miss. Count goes to 0-2. Trying to strike out Zach Ferris, which would be his second K of this game.
That's undue blame on Noah Kendrick, too, because with this team, 2 runs should not be enough to clinch a win for the opposing team.
Yeah, especially when you look back at the Miners' previous results, a 10-1 win in game number 2 and a 9-2 win in game number 1 against these Oilers back at Herman Brothers. 0-2, this ball is fouled off of the leg of Zach Ferris, and the count's going to stay at no balls and 2 strikes.
Braden Smith due up, who is 0 for 3, has reached on an error. Ferris, the exact same line.
Peninsula looking for some insurance. Hattenbach goes quickly again, and he gets a strikeout. So Hayden Hattenbach and the Mat-Su Miners defense delivers a 1-2-3 inning, and now it's going to be up to, so far, the ice-cold Miners bats to heat up once again. We'll find out if they can in the top half of the 9th inning. You're watching Mat-Su Miners Baseball on YouTube. Welcome back to Kenai, Alaska. Dylan Simmons and Charlie Fellows on the call, and the Peninsula Oilers are 3 outs away from clinching a series win against the Mat-Su Miners here at Coral Seymour Memorial Ballpark, and a big part of that has been Colby Reynolds and this Oilers defense. They have held the Miners to a goose egg, 0 runs throughout the course of this game.
And really no hard hit balls, no extra base hits, as is the custom for the Miners. They have 2 hits in this game, both singles. Don Patrizzi has 1, and he's at bat right now. After him, the tandem of Ferry, McCausland, Bisaccia, Scow, batters 4, 5, 6, 7 are combined 0 for 12. So somebody's going to have to break out of a slump, or there's going to have to be a pinch hitter if the Miners want any chance of salvaging what has been an absolutely demoralizing game here at Coral Seymour.
Well, if there's any man that could get things started for Mat-Su in the top of the 9th, perhaps it's Don Patrizzi, team leader in RBIs with 9. He's going to pop one up into space. into the infield. This should be an easily catchable ball, and baseman Ty Thomas about the worst way it could have started for Matsu, one away.
Well, both times he had reached base prior by a walk and by a hit were off of Jacob Tabor. Colby Reynolds has not allowed a base runner since he has entered the game. He has struck out 3 men, got a lot of pop-outs, fly-outs, no hits, no walks, no blemishes at all.
So Ferry now at the plate, Kyle McCausland behind him, so thus far no pinch hitters for Matsu that we can see. Reynolds with the pitch, it's low and in the dirt, ball 1.
Ferry, as I mentioned, 0 for 3, 2 ground outs and a strikeout. The 4-man unit that I mentioned so much has also struck out 6 of their 12 total at-bats.
Ferry with 4 total hits on the year. Needing a crucial hit number 5 right here. This pitch goes by, and that's ball 2.
And we're a strategy here just to sit there and watch Reynolds throw. The strike zone is pretty small. Just force him to throw strikes. Eventually, he might leave one over the plate for you.
Ferry has forced 6 walks this year, which is tied for the team lead with Riker Scow. And he's going to swing and miss at this one, and the count's going to go to 2-1.
That's what I was trying to do there. Capitalize on a pitch in the zone, but he didn't get solid contact. Ferry has been solid at first base this season. Did have an error in this game, so he's not blameless.
Ferry trying to amend for that right now. And that's in the zone. Count goes to 2-2.
That one looked outside to me.
Yeah, it was right at the edge, but the home plate umpire makes the call, and now Nick Ferry is facing down the barrel of a potential strikeout against Colby Reynolds. Reynolds, the 2-2. Pitch to Ferry. High fly ball deep to right field, but it's going to stay in the yard. Cole Wilson makes the catch, and that's out number 2. The Oilers are 1 out away from clinching the series and their 3rd consecutive win.
Miners now down to their last out, and it's Kyle McCausland who has 2 strikeouts and a ground out today.
The Miners are down to their final out, and Kyle McCausland, for now, the last man standing. Last gasp for Matsu. A 2-out pitch, and that is not going to find the zone. Count goes to 1-0. So a bit of a break early for Kyle McCausland. Trying to get something going, anything for that matter. The right fielder will watch this pitch come in. Reynolds takes his time and fires in a strike. Count evens.
Well, he can aggressive here. Nick Bisaccia and Riker Scow, the 2 due up, who are also both 0 for 3, so you got to make something happen.
McCausland with a 200 on-base percentage this year, and that's strike 2 for Colby Reynolds and the Peninsula Oilers from clinching their 3rd consecutive win. Reynolds is going to try to finish the job. The 1-2. This ball just fouled by McCausland, and the count will stay at 1 ball and 2 strikes, able to keep his team's chances at a victory alive.
Those first 2 games were demoralizing, but they both felt winnable, especially last night. I really thought that they were going to rally in the top of the 9th. Here it has just felt like no matter how hard they try, these Oilers
Reynolds
pitchers...
for the tombstone, and he got the strikeout. Game over. The Peninsula Oilers can pick up their 3rd consecutive victory over the Matsu Miners, and they shut out Matsu for the first time this season. On their way to a 4-3 record, Matsu drops to 4-4 in ABL play, and Peninsula now in possession of 2nd in the ABL standings. Matsu drops to 3rd.
There's just not a whole lot else you can say after a game like that. Things have gotten steadily worse with each passing game here in Peninsula. Playing on the road is hard. Playing in an unfamiliar ballpark is hard. Playing in the cold is hard. But these guys have demonstrated that they can do it, and it's just a lot of questions that need answering in these last 2 games now that you've dropped 3 in a row to a team that you have decimated both times you played them prior.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for Matsu, and one that is not going to be easy to stomach. The Miners will have 2 more chances tomorrow night and Saturday to try to pick up some momentum before they head back to Palmer for a home game against the Anchorage Bucks on Monday. But as for right now, this one is pretty tough for anybody back in the Valley and for the Miners here